I'm live. Hey everybody, this is Dennis here today, and we are talking about Startup Problems 101. I can't test my idea, or I don't know how to test my idea, or I really don't think I need to test my idea. So, very simply, a lot of people, they will come up with an idea and say, I need to have this, or I need to have this in order to validate my idea. And often those things are sort of quite big and difficult. That gives them an excuse not to go out and validate their idea, which puts off sort of getting real feedback from the market, and then they go smack, right? Yeah, that's driving in a small car from the 1950s with no seat belt into a nuclear containment concrete brick wall. Yeah, it's not a pretty ending. And that is another way that startups and entrepreneurs meet a sticky or irradiated end. So what do we do about this? How do we sort of get around this problem? So I think the first thing to think about is, okay, how do we test our ideas really quick? Ethiopian entrepreneurs the other day, I think that their problem was that it's very difficult to book some. I'm not going to go too into the details. The payment system in Ethiopia is rudimentary, apparently. And it's a total hassle. So people end up sort of making suboptimal choices, which put them at danger. So what they were thinking about is, okay, so we want to be a tech company, so we need to go have an app. Let's design the app. How are we going to find out whether people like the app? And I'm thinking, okay. So you've got a hunch about the problem that people are facing. In the first 5 minutes, we came up with 3 very different potential customer segments: some Ethiopians who lived abroad, some who lived in the country, some who lived outside the capital city. These are all quite different. Some of which might make it work, or some which didn't. And it was like I think they're going to go out and have a big fail. So how do we look at it? And very much is figuring out, okay, for most tech startups, to validate, all you need is a single page website with a booking form. Yeah, it doesn't matter really what it is. And then that booking form gives them the details, and then you've got somebody on the backside who does everything that the app is going to do later on. This gives you a bunch of insights. Firstly, do people care? If they don't care, well, so it's a good thing you've only built a single one-page website rather than a huge big website. I mean, what is the point of doing it otherwise? So that's it. It really reduces the risk, and you can put up lots of these one-page websites, different styles, different approaches, different value propositions to see what people really want. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when they come in and book. Right now, when you're starting off your site, you do not understand how the process should work, what the improvements are needed in the process. So let me give you an example. I was working for a food delivery company a few years ago, and over 9 months, we scaled from delivering about 200 meals at lunchtime to about 1,500 meals at lunchtime. And I was just looking at a small part of this. I was looking at it from when the chefs had got the food ready, and we're starting to put it into the boxes. Yeah, so I was involved in putting the food in the boxes, to getting the boxes onto the right rider, going to the right person, getting it delivered, and then managing the customer service. But ignore the customer service for the moment. We did failed. Let me think about it. We scaled, what is it, 200 to 1,500, 7 or 8 times for this startup, using the same number of people and at the same cost because of the process improvement. So imagine what is going to happen if you change that. And most of the time, when you do go and build a piece of, oops, my connection is unstable. I'm just holding. Okay, I'm back. Most of the time, when you purchase for software, you purchase for a single build that you assume is going to be awesome, right? It never is. It's usually about 30–50% of the way there, and you discover hundreds, if not thousands, of changes that you need to make from experience. So it is absolutely insanely better if you do something manually by hand, so that you understand what the processes inside the app are going to have to be later on, because you just have no idea about that. I'm really clever. I've done this for a long time. I get 70–80% of it wrong, because you don't understand enough about how the customer is going to be using it in the very early days. Let me give you another example. Once we were building a process to, I think it was automate a sales system. So it would have been all manual. We'd had about 10 people doing it, and it needed to be a lot more efficient, because the salesmen weren't bringing in the sales. We knew they were there, but they just weren't very good. They weren't following the processes. So basically, we automated it, set it up with a bunch of workflows. But the way we did this, we watched how they were working, understood how they were working. We then did an initial setup with the new processes. We then got, I think it was a bunch of Filipinos to run through that document where everything went wrong, what worked, made our process improvements, then did 2 tranches of workflow automation. Bang, bang. And over a period of 5–6 months, we got it really improving. And so this is one of the things that you really need to understand when you are building or want to go out and test something. If you're building something really expensive, really big, that's taking a lot of time and effort, and there's a huge amount of risk and reputation relying on it, you're almost certainly going to fail. So it is way better to come up with stupidly simple ideas. I worked with one guy. He had this brilliant idea. He says, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make t-shirts, and they're going to have video screens in them, and people are going to walk around on the MRT, the tube, the subway, whatever, on the bus, wherever there are lots of people, and they're going to be able to see these video adverts all over your body, and basically you'll get a cut of a pay-per-view. Okay, let's leave aside the technical problems, because to start with, you say, okay, how do we test this? We need to test this by getting a t-shirt. We need to I need to get $5,000, $10,000 to do the prototype, to go it out. They said, no, you don't, dude, right? We just get an iPad. We got an iPad, stitched a plate in so that we could hold it in place on somebody's chest. And in 3 hours, we were out with 2 or 3 people on the subway in the country. We had several hundred people look at it. Nobody cared. Nobody gave a shit. We tried different adverts. It just got no response. And so very quickly, in 3 hours, or maybe 10 man hours of work with the people involved, we demonstrated conclusively that the idea as it stood was not amazing. It might have had legs if we went and kept on doing more experiments to figure out what would work, what didn't work. But immediately we'd saved ourselves the months and the $5,000 or $10,000 of investing in a piece of technology that wouldn't have worked. And this is constantly what you need to be doing. How do you go out? How do you step aside from the idea and say, what is the core? What is the absolute critical part of my idea, and how do I go out and test it? And so it's basically like getting a rose and go snip, take off that leaf, snip, take off that, snip, take off that leaf, and get a razor blade sliding off all the thorns until eventually you're just left with the stem and the flower at the top. That is the essence. It is the absolute bare necessity. It will not look, not look anything like your final business model, your final prototype, your final proof of concept. But it is getting the core of what you want to test from up against your clients, your customers, your users, and seeing how they respond and their behavior when they respond, when they see something that is semi-real, tells you an incredible amount. And that then lets you make the decision, do I go this way and invest? Do I go this way and change what I need, what I'm thinking about to get something that really does it for the consumer? So that's the end of today's session. Let me just recap. How do you go out and test your idea? You do not build a solution. You do not even build a prototype solution. You use the grey matter inside here to come up with an easy, cheap way of testing it that ideally you will be able to do in 2 to 3 hours from now, spending no money, just putting something in front of people and watching their behavior, not what they say, people lie, watching their behavior to see what they do. That then gives you increasing levels of confidence, reduces uncertainty, and gives you a much better opportunity to get things to work. So I hope this has been useful. My name's Denis Oakley. I help startups, entrepreneurs, small businesses, even large businesses, develop business models that are going to help them take their products and service to market, because fundamentally everybody else is just as clever, smart, and hardworking as you, and can come up with an equally good product or service. The business model is the weapon. It is the delivery system that gets you to where you want to be, which is fast growth. Have an amazing day. My name is Denis Oakley. Subscribe, comment. See you soon.